I lost my job as an aerospace engineer not long ago. I was 34, back in my hometown, feeling lost. I thought teaching would help me find some purpose. That's when I started going to the local library. It was small and quiet, just full of dusty books. The smell of old paper was comforting. I liked getting lost in forgotten stories. One afternoon, I found an article in the archives. It was about a strange structure detected near Mars in 1985. The report seemed incomplete, and I felt a strange pull towards it. I wondered why no one paid much attention. It didn't sit right with me. I had to learn more, so I got obsessed. I started heading to the library late at night, after the librarians left. Each time I went, the article seemed to whisper more secrets. Some parts of it were redacted, like someone wanted to hide the truth. My heart raced every time I saw those black marks. Why would they hide this? As I returned night after night, odd things started happening. I noticed strange markings on the library floor, like scratches or symbols. I could have sworn they weren't there before. I felt uneasy every time I walked through those doors. It was like something was shifting in the air, but I tried to ignore it. I didn't want to seem paranoid. One night, while I was sitting at a table, I heard something crackle in the library's communication system. It was just a few garbled words. I felt the hairs on my arms stand up. The words were unintelligible, but the way they hung in the air sent chills down my spine. I wanted to tell someone, but who would believe me? I felt foolish. With each passing night, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. My mind played tricks on me, I thought. But it was more intense now. The markings increased in number, and I started feeling a deep sense of dread. I was drawn back to the article constantly, desperate for answers, but I felt like I was digging too deep. I realized someone else was out there, a presence that wanted to keep its secrets safe. The more I investigated, the more shadows seemed to creep around me. I needed to confront whatever was in that library. I figured the answers must lie in the darkness, just beyond my grasp. One evening, I thought I saw a figure in the corner of my eye, but it vanished. I felt a wave of terror wash over me. Then, as I reached the exit, I heard a voice whisper my name. I turned around fast, but the library was empty. My breath caught in my throat. What was going on? There was something lurking in those stacks, something waiting, and it knew my name. I felt paralyzed. I had been chasing some hidden truth, but now I was afraid of what I might find. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in over my head. I returned to the library the next night, my heart bounding as I pushed the doors open. The familiar scent of old books filled my lungs, but it was different somehow. The air felt thick, oppressive. I wondered if it was just my imagination.
I decided to head straight for the archives. The article had become my obsession. I pulled it out again, the paper crinkling beneath my fingers. This time I noticed something new. A name was scrawled in the margin, faded but legible. Dr. Evelyn Hartman. I didn't recall seeing that before. Who was she? I felt a sudden urge to dig deeper. I scribbled her name in my notebook, planning to search for her later. But as I looked back at the article, I saw a shadow shift in my peripheral vision. I turned my head slowly. Nothing, just the empty rows of books. Shivers ran down my spine. I couldn't let fear consume me. I took a deep breath and pressed forward. I had to know more about that structure and why people were silenced. I flipped through the pages, feeling more determined but also anxious. Then came the voice again, echoing faintly through the aisles. Help me. The sound was distant, layered with static. My heart raced. I stared at the communication system, dread crawling up my neck. This time I was sure I wasn't imagining things. The hairs on my arms stood up as instinct urged me to run. But I couldn't leave now. I had to understand. I ventured deeper into the library, past sections that felt strangely colder, like the temperature dipped as I moved. That's when I noticed that some of the symbols on the floor seemed to pulse with a faint glow. My mind was reeling. Why hadn't I seen this before? I bent down, touched one of the marks, and the moment my fingers connected, I was hit by a rush of energy, sharp and electric. I stumbled back, gasping. A wall of books shifted, the shelves creaking ominously. And then I saw it, a book lying open, pages fluttering as if someone had just been reading it. I leaned in closer, the title catching my breath. Anomalies Across the Solar System. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. Before I could grab it, the voice came again, clearer this time. Find her. Just then, lights flickered, and I felt the ground shake beneath me. The entire library seemed to vibrate, like it was alive. My heart thudded. I knew I couldn't stay any longer. I had to learn who Dr. Evelyn Hartman was, but now I also had to escape. As I dashed for the exit, I glanced back. In that brief moment, I saw
figure standing between the aisles, watching me. Frozen in place, I locked eyes with her. My pulse raced. I didn't know whether to run or call for help. And then, everything went dark. I gasped, the darkness suffocating. For a moment, I stood still, my heart racing as if it might leap from my chest. The silence felt heavy, pressing against me. I blinked, waiting for my eyes to adjust, but the dark held fast. My mind raced. Had I really seen someone, or was it all in my head? Panic rose inside me. I fumbled for my phone, tapping the screen to illuminate the space. A narrow beam of light cut through the pitch black, illuminating dust motes swirling in the air. I was still in the library.
The shelves loomed like ancient sentinels, but they felt more intimidating than ever. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The voice echoed in my mind. "Find her," it repeated, almost like a chant. I knew I had to find Dr. Evelyn Hartman, but where do I begin? What if I couldn't escape this disorienting maze of books? After a moment, I remembered the name I had scribbled down. I focused on that. I turned slowly, trying to feel my way toward the archives. But then the lights flickered back on, blinding me momentarily. My heart raced as the illumination revealed the room's familiar chaos. Books strewn about, papers scattered at my feet. It was then that I saw it. The open book lying at the foot of the shelf, the one I almost grabbed before the lights went out. I walked over cautiously. The title stared up at me. Anomalies Across the Solar System. Almost like a beacon, it called to me. With trembling fingers, I reached down and flipped through the pages. Diagrams and photos filled the book. Each page had notes, erratic handwriting scribbled in the margins. But one page caught my breath. It was a picture of a structure on Mars, a clear shot taken from orbit. It looked eerily similar to the description I had read in the article. My heart slumped. If NASA had detected something like this in 1985, then why was it buried? With a deep breath, I pulled out my notebook and wrote down everything I could remember about Dr. Hartman. I would need to look her up, find out what part she played in all of this. My mind raced with questions. Did she study the structure? What happened to her? Suddenly, I heard a loud crash behind me. Spinning around, I leveled the phone's light toward the sound. One of the shelves had toppled over, books spilling everywhere. Was it just an accident, or was someone else here? My instincts screamed at me to move, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Then I noticed a flash of movement, a shadow darting toward the back of the library. My breath caught. Someone was in the library with me. Was it the same figure I had seen moments before, or was it something worse? I had to decide quickly. I could either chase after the figure or retreat to safety, but the idea of leaving without answers felt unbearable. I took a cautious step forward, the soft crunch of debris underfoot echoing in the silence. As I moved toward the back, resolve hardened within me. I was here for answers. I would find Dr. Evelyn Hartman, no matter what. I crept cautiously down the narrow aisle, my phone held out like a flashlight in the darkness. The library felt endless, shadows pooling between the towering shelves. The sound of my footsteps felt thunderous in the quiet, drowning the soft rustle of dust settling back into its place. I pushed deeper, ready for whatever I might uncover. My thoughts raced. Why was that structure on Mars relevant now? Had Dr. Hartman left clues here? The urgency of my mission fueled me, prompting me to keep moving despite the fear tightening in my chest. As I reached the back of the library, the air felt different, thicker, charged. I could sense the weight of secrets. Every book was a vessel of knowledge, and in this moment, I was the seeker. Suddenly, I saw it, a small door to a restricted area, slightly ajar. It must have been hidden behind the shelves. A flicker of hope surged within me. I had known that this part of the library existed. I glanced back, expecting to see the shadow again, but it was gone. Just the unsettling quiet remained. With cautious determination, I pushed the door open, a loud creak cutting through the silence. The cramped space was dimly lit, piles of old research papers and files stacked haphazardly on a wooden table. Just ahead, a dusty filing cabinet loomed like a forgotten relic. This was a treasure trove of information, but would I be able to find what I needed? I stepped inside, scanning the clutter. The first drawer I opened was filled with folders, but the labels were faded and difficult to read. I pulled one out, flipping it open. It contained reports about various unexplained phenomena. My hands shook as I rifled through it. Each page fed the mounting fire of curiosity. Then I found it, an envelope labeled Hartman, Evelyn. It looked ancient, yellowed with age. I pulled it out and opened it, my breath catching in my throat. Inside were photocopies of her original research on the Martian structure, detailed sketches, potential implications, and references to her theories on extraterrestrial life. This was what I needed. But but as I delved deeper into her work, my phone buzzed with a notification. I almost dropped it. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from an anonymous sender. "Stop digging where you don't belong." A chill ran down my spine. Who was sending me this? How did they know what I was doing? The warning felt like a physical blow. I glanced around a crammed room, suddenly feeling very exposed. And then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, echoing through the narrow hall. Someone else was here, hunting for something. I instinctively shoved the papers back into their envelope, heart pounding erratically. Should I hide or confront them? The footsteps grew louder, and I remained frozen in place, every instinct screaming for me to leave. But I needed answers. I had come too far to back down now. That's when the door swung open wide, revealing a silhouette at the threshold. My heart dropped. This was it, the moment I had feared. The figure in the doorway shifted slightly, and my heart raced. It was a woman, her features obscured by the dim light. She stood still, surveying the small room as if she could sense my presence. Panic coursed through me, and I instinctively ducked behind the cluttered table. I held my breath, praying she hadn't seen me. She stepped inside, the door creaking slightly as it closed behind her.
I peeked out, trying to read her expression, but the shadows swallowed her face. What did she want? Had she come for my findings, or was she just a curious librarian? She moved toward the filing cabinet, her hands brushing against the dusty folders. I wanted to scream at her to leave, to get out before she stumbled upon what I had uncovered. That envelope contained the answers I desperately sought, and I couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands. Suddenly, she paused, glancing back over her shoulder as if sensing my eyes on her. I could see she was wearing a dark jacket, and her expression shifted. I realized she was searching for something, an urgency in her movements that mirrored my own. But what? Just then, my phone buzzed again, this time vibrating like a small bomb in my pocket. I winced at the noise, cursing my bad luck. I knew I had to silence it, but the woman turned sharply in my direction, drawn to the sound. Everything in me screamed to flee, but the curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice low but filled with authority. I didn't respond. I was frozen, adrenaline pumping, weighing my options. I could either expose myself now or make a run for it. "Speak up! I know you're there!" she shouted, frustration seeping into her tone. I took a risk, inching slightly from my hiding spot. I could get a better look at her, maybe even understand why she was here. She seemed intent, focused. It was as if she had some hidden knowledge about Hartman's research. "Who are you?" I finally managed to stammer, my voice barely more than a whisper. She stepped forward, the faint light catching her eyes for a moment. "I'm looking for something that was meant to stay hidden." Her words sent a shiver through me. Did she know about the research? Did she know what I had found? A sudden thought struck me. Maybe she was part of the same shadow, part of the reason for those warnings. "Stay back," I warned, feeling a surge of courage mixed with a healthy dose of fear. "What do you want?" But before she could answer, a loud crash from outside the room echoed through the narrow hall. The noise startled both of us, and her expression shifted to something more urgent. "Get down!" she yelled, diving to the side. I followed her lead instinctively, realizing again that my situation had just escalated. Someone wasn't just searching the library now. They were determined to find us. I was trapped, both by the unknown woman and the threat outside. As I crouched behind the table, the realization hit me. I didn't just hold answers to mysteries about Mars. I now held secrets that could put my life at stake, and whatever was coming next was far from over. The crash echoed again, louder this time, and I felt the surge of fear gripping my throat. "What was that?" I asked, my voice shaking as I leaned in closer to the woman, hoping for guidance. She shot me a pointed look. "We need to move, now!"
Her urgency grabbed hold of me. We couldn't stay here. I wanted to ask more, to comprehend what we were involved in, but the tension in her voice made it clear there wasn't time for questions. I crawled out from behind the table, silent as a mouse, hoping I wouldn't make another sound that would attract attention. The woman gestured for me to follow. I moved quickly, staying close to her side. We crept toward the door, both of us aware that whatever was happening outside was likely connected to my discovery. The wooden door creaked slightly as she eased it open, and we peered out into the dim hallway. I could hear muffled voices. They were too far to distinguish, but close enough to confirm our safety was far from assured. "Who are they?" I whispered, feeling the weight of the moment press down on us. "Not friends," she replied tersely. "We can't go that way." She motioned toward the back of the library. My mind raced. The back exit would lead us out into the alley, the quickest route away from whatever was happening outside. I nodded, heart pounding, as she began to lead the way. We moved quickly, carefully stepping past the looming shelves. The smell of old paper and musty books surrounded us, its familiar scent mixed with a charged air of danger. Just as we reached the back wall, another crash resonated through the building, this one accompanied by the sounds of shouting. "Go," she urged, almost shoving me toward the darkened exit ahead. I squeezed through, my heart racing as I felt the cool night air hit my face. Once outside, we didn't stop. We sprinted down the alley, away from the library, adrenaline pushing us forward. I struggled to keep pace as my mind darted back to the envelope filled with documents, still lying in the library, just waiting to be discovered. "What were you looking for?" I finally managed to ask as we rounded a corner, desperate to fill the silence with answers. "Evidence," she replied, breathless but steady. "Hartman had found something significant about Mars. I need to recover his work before it's too late." My stomach dropped. "You know about the research?" "Yes," she said, urgency creeping into her tone. "You don't realize the implications of what you have. I was sent to retrieve it before anyone else can." "Sent by who?" I pressed, confusion swirling in my gut. "What's really going on?" Her eyes locked onto mine, and I saw a flash of something, fear or determination, I couldn't tell which. "That's what we need to discover, but first we need to get to safety." Before I could respond, a shadow loomed at the end of the alley. The figure was tall, imposing, and moving toward us with a menacing purpose. "Run," she shouted, and instinct kicked in. We turned and fled, the looming threat pushing us deeper into the night. Hands gripped my shoulders, pulling me back as I stumbled. Suddenly, everything went dark. When I came to, I was lying on a cold surface.
For a moment, confusion wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. The experiences of the last few minutes felt surreal. I blinked, trying to clear my vision, and the dim light around me started to sharpen. I tried to sit up, but pain shot through my shoulder. I winced and let out a groan. "Where am I?" I whispered, my voice barely above a croak. "Easy." A familiar voice came from my right. It was the woman from the library, her face etched with concern. "You fainted. We're in a safe house." She was kneeling beside me, a hand gently resting on my arm. I looked around. The walls were bare and the place seemed small, lit only by a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. "What happened?" I asked, still disoriented. "After we ran, they caught up with us," she explained. "But I lost them in the streets. I brought you here to regroup." She sounded relieved yet anxious, glancing at the door. "We can't stay long." Even though we were momentarily safe, a knot of tension coiled in my stomach. Who were they? Those figures in the alley? Why were they chasing us? She hesitated, her eyes narrowing. "They work for a group that wants Hartman's research, and they won't stop until they get it." "Why would anyone want something from Mars so badly?" I asked, scrambling to piece together what I knew. "What's in his research?" "That's what I hope to find out," she said, biting her lip. "Hartman discovered something critical, something that could alter our understanding of Mars and our own planet." I felt a chill at the implication. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, loud footsteps thudded on the staircase outside the door, accompanied by urgent voices. My heart raced as I shot a glance at her. "We need to hide," she pointed to a small closet in the corner. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the pain, and ducked inside. She followed me, pulling the door almost completely shut. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. My heart thumped loudly in my chest, but I pressed my mouth against my arm to stifle my breathing. "Where are they?" a deep voice boomed outside the door. "They must have come this way," another voice responded. "Search the rooms." The air grew thick with tension as I held my breath, eyes barely peering out from the crack of the door. I could see her, eyes wide, straining to listen for the slightest hint of what was happening out there. Suddenly, the doorknob rattled, and a loud thud against the door made me flinch. "They can't be far," someone growled. "Check everywhere." That's when I saw it, a glint of metal shifting beneath the door. My heart raced. If they knew we were here, there wouldn't be time to escape. "I should have never taken that envelope," I whispered to myself, panic creeping in. But it was too late. I now understood one thing clearly. Someone was desperate enough to chase us for a secret that could change everything. The door burst open with a crash, and I jumped. My heart slammed against my ribs.
I barely had time to register the two men in dark clothes flooding into the room before I was pulled further back into the closet. "Check in there," one of them shouted, his voice sharp and impatient. I could see the panic in the woman's eyes. We were cornered. The man moved closer, and I clutched my breath, willing myself to become invisible. My mind raced. I had to think of something, but fear had a grip on me. The way they moved, with confidence and purpose, held a chill that sank deep into my bones. "Nothing here. Let's search the rest of the house," one of them said after a moment, turning away. Relief washed over me. but it was short-lived. They were still close. "Did you find anything?" the man at the door barked. "Just a false alarm," the first man replied. "She couldn't have gotten far. Let's check the basement." Their footsteps grew distant, but the fear still clawed at me. "Are you okay?" the woman whispered, her breath hot against my ear. I nodded, though uncertainty bubbled inside. What now? After a few agonizing moments, we quietly slipped out of the closet. I could still hear the muffled voices of the men echoing through the house. We needed to escape. "Wait," she said, looking back towards the door. "There's another exit in the back," she pointed, to a small window obscured by grimy drapes. "It's narrow, but we can get through." "No way," I replied, unable to shake the heaviness of fear lurking just outside. "They'll see us." "We don't have a choice," she insisted. "If we stay, they'll come back. It's our only shot." My pulse quickened again, but she was right. I hurried to the window, peeking outside. The alley looked clear, but a tension clicked in the air. "Okay, let's do this," I murmured, and helped her lift the window. It creaked loud enough for me to wince and imagine the worst. "On three," she whispered. "1, 2... Suddenly, the loud bang of a door slamming shut echoed from inside the house. Voices picked up again. "Get them!" a shout rang out, followed by footsteps that thundered toward us. "No!" I gasped, pushing against the window now while she scrambled to climb out first. "Go!" she yelled, and I couldn't hesitate any longer. With my heart in my throat, I squeezed through the window, the cool air biting at my skin. I landed on the ground with a thud that sent shockwaves through my shoulder. "Get up," she urged, already scanning the alley for escape. I stood, breathing heavily, not risking a glance back at the house where danger lurked. Just then, something caught my eye, a flash of metal reflecting light against the brick wall nearby. It was the same glint I had seen beneath the door before. "Did you see that?" I said, my voice shaky. "What?" she asked, glancing at me. "We need to move." "No, look," I pointed, heart racing. "What is that?" She turned, her expression shifting to intrigue mixed with dread. "I don't know, but we can't stay here." But I couldn't shake the feeling. Whatever lay behind that flash could be vital. Just as I hesitated, a chilling realization gripped me. What if they're looking for it? Before I could think further, I saw movement at the back door of the house we had just fled. They were coming. I had to make a choice. "Go!" I shouted, ignoring the weight of fear and stepping forward to investigate, driven by a force I couldn't explain. I need to know what it is. As I inched closer, the glint of metal became clearer. It was an oddly shaped object lying at the foot of the wall. My instinct screamed to run, but curiosity gripped me, pulling me in like a moth to a flame. "What are you doing?" the woman hissed, urgency in her voice. "They'll find us." I couldn't look away from the object. It was small and smooth, marked with strange etchings that looked like no language I'd ever seen. I crouched down, reaching out, fingertips brushing against its cool surface. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from an overwhelming sense of importance. Whatever this was, it felt significant. "Are you crazy?" she whispered harshly, tugging at my arm. "If they catch us, it's over. We need to leave now." But just as she pulled me back, a street lamp flickered nearby, casting an eerie glow over the alley. I could hear the men shouting, their footsteps growing closer, animated voices echoing in the night, sounding more desperate with each second. "I have to take it," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "What if it can help us? What if it's what they want?" I didn't know what that even meant, but my gut told me it was true. "Are you out of your mind? We can't waste time." She was right, but the thought of leaving it behind felt like sealing our fate. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw shadows darting down the alley. They were almost here. With a quick decision, I grabbed the object, its notes engraved on the sides catching my finger as I pulled it free. A jolt of electricity surged toward me, and I nearly dropped it. "Let's go!" The woman didn't give me a choice. She took off down the alley, urgency coursing through her. I sprinted after her, the weight of the mysterious object pressing against my chest. I could feel its power, a strange hum that matched my racing heartbeat. As we rounded the corner, I focused ahead, spotting a narrow gap between two buildings. "There!" I shouted. "Are you serious? It's a dead end," she complained, but I could see the desperation in her eyes. With no time to argue, I led her through the gap, squeezing through the tight space. The object slipped from my grasp for a moment, bouncing off the brick wall before landing on the pavement. I reached for it, heart pounding. The shadows were closing in on us fast. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted behind us, causing us to jump. "They're here," I shouted, grabbing the object and running forward. "Where do we go now?" she panted, glancing back, panic plastered across her face. "Anywhere but here," I said, adrenaline pushing me forward as we broke out from the alley into the street. In front of us, headlights illuminated the darkness, framing the outline of a car, our way out. "But it's too risky," she yelled, but I was already pushing her toward the vehicle. The sound of footsteps echoed behind us, and I could almost feel their breath on my neck. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. It was one of the men, his expression twisted with anger and determination. "Stop!" he shouted, lunging toward us. I ran faster, clutching the object tighter.
My heart raced, not just from fear, but with the realization that whatever this was might be the key to our survival. Just as we reached the car, I turned back, knowing we were running out of time. "Get in!" I yelled, diving into the passenger seat just as the man lunged at me. The door slammed shut, but he grabbed it, pulling with a ferocity that sent a shudder through me. And then everything went dark, our fate hanging in a perilous balance. When I opened my eyes again, I was on the floor of an unfamiliar room, bright overhead lights blinding me briefly. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, jarring me from my disorientation. "Where am I?" I croaked, panic rising in my throat. "Easy there," came a calm voice from beside me. I squinted, seeing the same woman from the library leaning against the wall, arms crossed and looking uncharacteristically relaxed. "You're safe now, for the moment." "Safe?" I shot back, sitting up painfully. "What happened? The man? The object?" My memory was a jumble of shouting and fear. "It's okay," she reassured me, but her eyes flickered uneasily. "We got away. I drove us a few miles out into the next town. This is a safe house for now." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation press down on me again. "What about the object? What did you do with it?" She nodded toward the table. There, in the stark light, sat the object I'd grabbed from the alley. Its antiquated etchings glimmered with an otherworldly sheen. My heart raced. "It's here." "Yes," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And it's more than just a foreign artifact. It's a key of sorts, possibly linked to Hartman's research." My mind raced through all of Hartman's theories, the implications of extraterrestrial life. Did we get away clean? What if they find us here? She shook her head with a fierce look. "We won't let that happen. I know how to keep us safe. For now, we need to study that object." Goosebumps rippled along my arms at the intensity in her voice. What was I wrapped up in? Just days ago, I was an aerospace engineer. Now I was entangled in a conspiracy far larger than myself. "How do you even know about all this?" I pressed, desperate to comprehend her depth of knowledge. She leaned in closer, her voice almost inaudible now. "I've been tracking this for years. Hartman made discoveries that threatened powerful interests."
"If they find us, they won't just want the object, they'll want us gone too." Fear scraped at my insides, but curiosity surged. I needed to know more about what made this so dangerous. "You mentioned before that this could alter our understanding of Mars. How?" "That's the problem," she explained. "We don't have concrete evidence yet. Hartman's work isn't just theoretical. It involves unexplainable anomalies in the Martian landscape, things that could rewrite history." I felt a chill at her words. This was beyond scientific inquiry. This was the foundation of belief systems, our understanding of humanity's place in the universe, all intertwined with those haunting secrets hidden in the cosmos. Suddenly, footsteps thudded outside, sharp and methodical, slicing through my thoughts. My pulse quickened. "They're here," I whispered, heart racing. Her eyes darted toward the door, and she motioned for silence. We fell into a tense stillness, listening as the footsteps halted just outside. A knock sounded loud and insistent. "Open up! We know you're in there!" A deep voice called, unmistakable menace lacing each syllable. "Stay calm," she murmured, her gaze locked on the door with determination. "They might be bluffing. Just hold tight." We exchanged a glance, and I could see tension etching lines on her forehead, her fingers tapping anxiously against her arm. I could sense she was calculating their next move, but fear whispered dark possibilities in my mind. I could have turned back, gone down a different path. So why did I keep chasing this thread? "Open the door! Hartman's findings belong to us!" The tone shifted from menacing to urgent, and I felt the air thickened with fear. It was clear they wouldn't leave without getting what they wanted. The silence stretched painfully. Would they break the door down? My eyes flitted to the window, but running seemed like a horrible idea. Escape was not a guaranteed answer. What if we... But before I could finish the thought, our heavy front door burst open, splintering against the frame, and men flooded into the room. They were dressed in black, hardened eyes scanning the surroundings with purpose. "Get back!" the woman shouted, stepping in front of me just as chaos erupted. I ducked down beside her, adrenaline surging as a fight broke out. "We aren't here to play games," the lead man growled, shoving her aside. I could only hear the scattering of furniture, the echo of gruff voices and angry shouts. In that moment, time froze. I turned toward the table, my heart prickling with that same overwhelming sense of importance, that object still shining like a beacon. "Grab it!"
she yelled, seizing my arm, but my instincts told me we needed to hold on to it. We can't let them have it. No, I said, and in the quick flashes of movement, I saw the past few days flash before my eyes. My job loss, my obsession, the articles, the shadows looming ever closer to my fate. Whoever sought the truth was also haunting us.
The men were closing in. We will take what's ours, the leader snarled, reaching for the object, distinctly aware of its significance. In one swift motion, I lunged for the object, ripping it from the table just as the leader's hand brushed against it. The surge of energy that coursed through me felt like a lifeline, a last chance. "Go!" I shouted, forcing us to the side as I swung it in the leader's direction. A blinding flash emitted from the object, knocking everyone back and flooding the room with an unearthly glow. I could feel the energy radiate, a pulse that surged through the air, pushing the men away. In that moment of chaos, we bolted, euphoria and terror battling for control with each step. As we crashed through the doorway, the world exploded with noise. Behind us, the shadows of our pursuers loomed large, but we had created a breach. I could barely think, adrenaline driving me forward. The night air outside was like a breath of fresh life after an eternity in darkness. As we sprinted down the street with urgency gripping our hearts, I realized something. There was so much more to uncover. The threats, the secrets, the truth surrounding Dr. Hartman's discoveries lingered like dust in the air. I glanced at her, breathless with a shared understanding. "What now?" "What comes next?" she said, determination rekindling in her gaze. "We dig deeper." And just like that, I plunged into the abyss of uncertainty once more, wondering what the pursuit of truth would truly cost.